Her reflection in the river didn't belong to her. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple as Azin walked the familiar path to the river. The air was still, unusually quiet for Umokwe village, where the sounds of children playing and women pounding yam often filled the evenings. But tonight, the silence was heavy. It clung to her, wrapping around her chest like a tight rope. She clutched a small clay gourd in her hands, her steps slowing as the river came into view. This wasn't her usual chore. The family fetched water in the morning, not at dusk. But when her grandmother Naoma had asked her to go, her voice had been firm, almost desperate. Go before the night fully falls, Naoma had said, gripping Azini's wrist tightly. And whatever you do, don't stare into the water for too long. Azini had laughed nervously at the odd warning. Why not? Just don't, child, Naoma had snapped, her voice sharp with worry. The river sees more than it should. Now, standing at the riverbank, Azin's curiosity gnawed at her. She bent down, letting the gourd sink into the cool water. The river rippled gently as the vessel filled, its quiet sound almost soothing. Almost. Izini straightened and glanced down at the water. At first, her reflection stared back at her, ordinary and familiar. But then it changed. Her breath hitched as the face in the water smiled, a slow, eerie smile that didn't belong to her. The reflection's eyes were sharp and knowing, as though it were mocking her. She stumbled back, almost dropping the gourd. What is this? She whispered, her heart pounding. The smile in the water faded, replaced by a calm expression that felt even more unnerving. Ezine, a soft voice called, faint and melodic, yet it sent a chill down her spine. She whipped her head around, scanning the trees and the empty riverbank. Who's there? She asked, her voice trembling. The voice came again, gentle but firm, and Ezine realized with a sickening jolt that it was coming from the water. Do you know who you are, Ezine? Her legs felt like they might give out beneath her. What kind of question is that? Of course I know who I am. The reflection tilted its head, its calm expression almost pitying. Are you sure? The words sent a shiver through her. I don't know what you want, but I'm leaving, she said, her voice louder now, as if volume could drown out her fear. She turned and hurried back up the path, refusing to look back. Naoma was waiting when Azin returned, her wrinkled face tight with worry. What happened? She asked, snatching the gourd from Azina's trembling hands. Did you look into the water? Azina hesitated, but her grandmother's piercing gaze made lying impossible. I didn't mean to, she admitted. Something was there. It looked like me, but it wasn't, and it spoke to me. Neoma closed her eyes and exhaled deeply, muttering a prayer under her breath. It has started, she said, almost to herself. What has started? Izina demanded. What's going on? Neoma grabbed her hand, pulling her to sit by the small fire in the center of their compound. The flames flickered, casting shadows on Neoma's weathered face as she spoke. There is something you don't know about yourself, child. Something I've kept from you. Azin's heart pounded. What are you talking about? You are not an ordinary child, Neoma said. You are part of something bigger. The river knows you because you were born of it. Izini stared at her grandmother in disbelief. Born of the river? That doesn't make any sense. It will, Neoma said. Your mother was chosen by the river spirits long before you were born. But she rejected their call, and for that she paid a price. Her spirit was taken, trapped between our world and theirs. Izin's head spun. So she's not dead? She is neither here nor gone, Neoma said, her voice thick with regret. And now the spirits are calling you to finish what she could not. Izini stood abruptly, her hands shaking. Why are you just telling me this now? I've lived my whole life without knowing any of this. I thought I could protect you, Neoma said, her voice cracking. But the spirits never forget, Izini. They've been waiting for you. Before Izin could respond, a low hum filled the air. It was soft at first, but it grew louder, vibrating through the ground and into their bones. Neoma shot to her feet, her face pale. They are here. The sound led them back to the river. The air was colder now, and a pale mist hung over the water, swirling like something alive. Azine hesitated at the edge, her heart racing. Go to them, Neoma said, her voice trembling. You must. Go to who? Azine asked, but she already knew the answer. The mist parted, revealing a circle of figures standing by the river. They were cloaked in white, their faces hidden in shadow. One stepped forward, its voice clear and commanding. Izini, daughter of the river, do you know why you have been called? Izini shook her head, her throat dry. No, the figure pointed to the water. Look, and you will see. She didn't want to. Every part of her screamed to turn and run, but her feet carried her forward. Slowly she leaned over the river. Her reflection appeared first, calm and steady. But then another face emerged beside hers. It was a woman's face, beautiful but unfamiliar, until Izin realized who it was. Mother, she whispered, her voice breaking. The face in the water nodded. Yes, my child, it is me. Izin's knees buckled and she collapsed by the riverbank. How is this possible? Why are you here? Her mother's voice was soft but tinged with sorrow. I made a mistake, Izin. I thought I could escape the spirits, but no one escapes them. Now I am trapped. Tears streamed down Izin's face. How do I help you? You must restore the balance, her mother said. You must take my place. Izin's heart sank. Take your place? What does that mean? The figures around her began to hum again, their voices weaving into a melody that was both beautiful and haunting. The leader stepped forward, extending a hand. Enter the river, Izin. Only then will you understand. The cold water wrapped around her as she stepped in, each step heavier than the last. The world dimmed, and soon the river swallowed her whole. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in Umuokwe. She stood on a vast, glowing expanse, the ground beneath her feet rippling like liquid gold. Her mother stood before her, her form shimmering. This is the space between worlds, her mother said. The spirits want you to be their bridge, the link between the living and the dead. Izin shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. Her mother reached out, her hand brushing Izin's cheek. I know, my child, but some burdens are given, not chosen. If you walk away, the balance will remain broken and the spirits will not rest. Izin sobbed, the weight of her mother's words crushing her. What happens if I agree? You will return to the living, her mother said, but you will never truly belong. Part of you will always be theirs. And if I don't? Her mother's face fell. Then I remain here, and the spirits will take their vengeance on the village. Izin's heart ached, torn between her own desires and the lives of those she loved. Finally, she took a deep breath. I'll do it. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Izin. You have a strength I never did. The light around them grew brighter, and Izin felt herself being pulled back. When she emerged from the river, the figures were gone, and the mist had cleared. Neoma ran to her, pulling her into a tight embrace. It is done, Neoma said, her voice trembling. You've saved us all. Izini looked at the river, her reflection staring back at her. It was her face, but something in her eyes had changed. She felt it, the pull of the spirits, the weight of her new role. She had saved her mother, her village, but at a cost she would carry forever. And as the first rays of dawn broke through the trees, she knew her life would never be the same.